Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Utility Sports. And in today's video, we're coming at you with our Week 14 NFL predictions and pick 'em. Of course, this has been a series we've been doing on the channel throughout this crazy NFL season where there's been so many upsets, so many great games, and we're coming up closer to the NFL playoffs each and every week. So make sure you guys are subscribed for the latest in the NFL season. We also have NFL mock drafts on the channel and a whole bunch of other fun stuff to check out as well. College basketball, college football, and a bunch of other great content as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. And now let's take a look at our pick'em records here. Myself at 80-61, not something to slouch about, but I am no pick'em wizard here. Austin at a cool 88-53, of course. If the season was a little bit more predictable this year, of course, such a crazy year with some of the upsets we're getting, probably expect him to get all of those picks right going into the future. If you're betting on actual against the spread or pick'em this week, probably going to want to side with Austin, not myself, if you want to win big money. Moving in now to our NFL Week 14 bye teams. We got the Indianapolis Colts, Miami Dolphins, New England Patriots, and Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, 3 of these 4 teams already won today, the day we're recording this Sunday. And then the Patriots have a big-time Monday night matchup as well. We are recording this Sunday night right ahead of the Sunday primetime slot, just the normal time that we record this, so it can come out to you guys promptly on Monday morning for the next week. So Week 14, here are the bye week teams, Austin. Jumping into the locks, you went with the Chargers over the New York Giants. Of course, the Chargers had a big win today against the Bengals. What's your thoughts on Los Angeles?
I think Los Angeles is going to be a tough matchup for the Giants. The secondary is going to have their hands full with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Very, very tough game. And now we're going to transition to your game, and you have the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears. How do you feel about this matchup moving forward?
Well, the Packers just the better team on paper, obviously, but I think the key thing here to watch is Kenny Clark. He's second among all interior defensive linemen when it comes to quarterback pressures. And of course, we know what he does in the run game as well. He's an absolute beast up the middle, one of the best interior defensive linemen in the entire league. And I think he's going to have a massive day against the Chicago Bears. In this one, the Bears, they got a lot going right for them long term when you look at Justin Fields and kind of the progression we've seen from him this year. But they're still a ways away from beating a team as good as Green Bay in my estimation. Moving into our upsets here, I'm going with a big-time one here with the Houston Texans upsetting the Seattle Seahawks. Texans are at home this week, but quite the worst team. I think that they're going to be able to pull this one out because I think the Seahawks, coming off a win against San Francisco, maybe don't take Houston as seriously as they need to after a big charged divisional matchup against a team in San Francisco that has a lot of history with Seattle. I think they kind of sleep on Houston here, and Houston takes advantage of that with a narrow win. Austin, you focus on another divisional matchup yourself here with the Panthers over the Falcons. What's your thoughts in this game?
Yeah, I think really it's going to be a close game. 2 division rivals duking it out. I think it's going to be a different environment. No Joe Brady heading into that game. I'm not exactly sure, where they really go from here. Offensive identity is going to be a big question mark. However, I just like them. They're at home. I think really it's going to have to come down to Cam Newton having a big game in that one.
Most definitely. Going in now to our actual pick'em here. We're going to start with the Thursday night matchup like we always do. Pittsburgh Steelers won a very narrow game today over the Baltimore Ravens. Anyone who watched that saw just how close it came. Probably a half-foot throw difference of Lamar Jackson, and we're looking at the Ravens walking out of that one with a win on that 2-point conversion attempt. However, Steelers moved to 6-5-1, and they're going into Minnesota at US Bank Stadium against the 5-7 Vikings, who just got upset by the previously winless Detroit Lions. Austin, we both opted for the Steelers. Is it more of a story of who Minnesota is rather than Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think for this game, it's the Minnesota Vikings coming off of a really, really low loss. I really, that's the only way to coin that. I think this Minnesota Vikings team is, they're depleted. They were injury ridden in that game. However, no excuse. They had to win that game. It was a must win, and they come out of there with a loss. I think Pittsburgh's going to be way too much up front to handle. This Vikings offensive line has had a number of changes amongst it. So really making it a difficult game for the Vikings, for Kirk Cousins, and especially that secondary. You're going to have to go up against Deontay Johnson all day long, and he's going to have a huge day.
I think the key thing here for me with the Vikings, and Vikings fans know all about it this year, Clint Kubiak and his conservative play calling. He's been afraid to push the ball down the field with Kirk Cousins. I'm not quite sure why. They have the weapons for that. Also, there's a sprained ankle there for Adam Thielen, so you're adding another key player to that injury report for Minnesota. You're not going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers defense with conservative play calling and without some of your key weapons. The Vikings are a good team. They have a really good roster. However, it seems like Mike Zimmer's days there in Minnesota might be numbered as the head coach. Wouldn't be surprised to see him gone before or by the end of the season this year. Pittsburgh, I think, moves to 7-5-1 and continues pushing for an AFC wildcard playoff spot. Now we move into our Sunday slate here. Of course, a good collection of games again this week. I feel like we've been spoiled this year with all the great games we've had. Austin, starting here with one that's maybe less illustrious. The Saints at Jets here. Of course, New Orleans 5-7, the New York Jets 3-9. Zach Wilson came back today for the Jets, played pretty well, threw 2 touchdowns in the first half. Austin, you still picked for the Saints over New York. How come?
The reason for that is I think the New Orleans Saints are going to have to get really creative with their play calling. This was a tough game. I really was close to picking the Jets on this one. However, I think the New Orleans Saints will have a great game plan defensively for this New York Jets offense. I think they're going to be able to generate a couple of turnovers, leaving it to be a short field for whoever is the quarterback for New Orleans. We're not exactly sure what the game plan is moving forward.
Yeah, and we're really not sure. It could be Taysom Hill, it could be Trevor Siemian. We don't really quite know yet at this point who's going to be quarterback in the New Orleans Saints. However, for me, I'm not concerned about that picking the Saints. I'm a big-time Jets fan. Gardner Minshew picked us apart and looked like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL today with some of the accuracy he displayed against the Jets. It's embarrassing sometimes when you get picked apart by a backup quarterback to that level. I expect more of the same here. Saints, I think they roll over the Jets, win by 2 scores. I'm expecting a 10-point margin of victory, and Saints roll in this one. Here we got Falcons at Panthers, Austin. We got a little bit of difference of opinion here. 2 5-7 teams, of course, in the same division as well, so they know each other fairly well. You opted for the Panthers. You talked about that a little bit more in the open. Break it down just a little bit further for us.
Yeah, I think for the Carolina Panthers, it's going to have to come down to them running the ball effectively, setting up some play action, and it's really going to have to be Cam Newton being able to pick apart this Falcons secondary. A.J. Terrell's been very, very good for the Falcons in that secondary. I just think that Cam Newton is going to be a little bit too much for this defense to handle. He should have a big game against a familiar foe in the Falcons.
Yeah, I think that the key thing to watch here is, can the Falcons take advantage of the Panthers' weak offensive line? Falcons, their edge play is not great either. They've got some issues along their pass rush situation right now, but I think this is going to be a hard-fought game, probably come down to the wire, and I have the Falcons just barely out-edging the Carolina Panthers, and I'm looking for Kyle Pitts to have a big day this week. He's going to have to keep the Falcons in this one, and I'm leaning on him to be a key X factor in this matchup. Seahawks at Texans now. The game we talked about a little bit earlier in the open. Austin, you went with the Seahawks. I opted for the Texans. I think we both acknowledge that the Seahawks are the better team between these two, especially when you factor in Russell Wilson, what he is as a quarterback. But the Seahawks have been not themselves this season by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think anyone would have expected them to be 4-8 heading into week 14. Texans at 2-10 did sound a lot more accurate. Again, I'm opting for the Texans here. They're at home, and I think the Seahawks maybe overlooked them a little bit coming off of a key charged win. I don't think that they're going to take the Texans as seriously as they need to, and the Texans just barely pull one out here. I know this is really bold. Texans are not a good football team, but I see that coming down the wire here. And part of it is I'm 8 games back here in the pick'em. So if I want to make some ground up, I need to make some plays here. Picking Houston over Seattle is one I have to make. Austin, your reason on why Seattle is going to win this one?
I think the Seahawk passing attack is going to be way too much for the Texans to handle. You have DK coming at you, you have Tyler Lockett coming at you, and really the Texans' hope in this one would be making them one-dimensional, making them only throw, because Seattle's struggled to run the ball. Obviously, a slew of injuries has been the reason for that. So that would be the Texans' hope. I could see the rationale and why you take the Texans, but I think Russell Wilson, this passing attack, will be too much for this Texans defense to handle.
Most definitely. Fun bit of information. Adrian Peterson scored, I believe, his 126th career touchdown today for the Seattle Seahawks. So that's absolutely awesome. Congratulations to Adrian Peterson continuing to climb up those rushing lists. Raiders at Chiefs here now, an AFC West matchup. The Chiefs 7-4 before Sunday Night Football. The Las Vegas Raiders coming at 6-6. Remember, they started the year super hot. Now find themselves at the very bottom of a very talented and tough AFC West division. We both opted for Kansas City here at home in Arrowhead. That's a very hostile place to play. It'd be tough for the Raiders to come in, especially off a loss to Washington. If you can't handle Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team, the Chiefs become a much tougher task. Austin, what do the Raiders have to do to win this one?
Yeah, obviously, it's kind of that same dimension we talked about. You really make them one-dimensional, make them throw the ball a ton. yes, that they're going to pick up those big chunk yards, but it's really truly eliminating a big Tyreek Hill play or multiple plays down the field. Keep everything in front of you. They got to be sure tackling in that secondary, because if you allow Kansas City to really get in rhythm, that's when it gets dangerous. And unfortunately for the Raiders, I just don't think they'll be able to contain them all game long. We're going to see some big plays in this game.
Right, containing Tyreek Hill is a task easier said than done. So electric down the field. And I think one of the wide receivers in the NFL that doesn't get enough credit despite all the accolades, all the success we've seen from him. A lot of people label him as just a speed wide receiver, Austin. Break down why that's really not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's completely false, because he's evolved his entire route tree. He can run it to its entirety. There are so many different ways he can beat you. And also, not only that, but we look at guys like John Ross. They were just speed guys. That's not the same case here. This is a guy that is just so talented. And something else that's really underrated about his game is his ability to catch the ball in traffic despite his size. That is something that we've seen week in, week out, him catching the ball over defenders, which is really impressive for his size and for his length. I think that's one of the most underrated aspects of his game.
He's such a fun wide receiver to watch, so electric off the line of scrimmage, probably one of the best releases in all of football, can get off press coverage, also just a dog against off coverage as well, working across the middle of the field. Absolutely phenomenal player, and the Chiefs are going to ride on him this week to beat Las Vegas here in that AFC West matchup. Ravens at Browns now. Of course, breaking news on the Ravens. Marlon Humphrey is expected to be out the remainder of the season. They already lost Marcus Peters this year. So you're looking at another massive loss into that cornerback room, which was arguably the best cornerback room in all of football. They come in at 8-4, of course, drop that close one to the Pittsburgh Steelers we talked about a little bit earlier on in this episode. Browns at 6-6, Austin. They've not had a clean bill of health all year either. We're both opting for the Browns. How much does this come down to the Browns' injuries and kind of how they've looked this season?
Yeah, we are opting to go with the Ravens. Reason being, I think that Lamar Jackson should have a big game. I don't think that that's a secret. And for me, it's more about the Browns' overall health. Kareem Hunt in and out of the lineup, Baker Mayfield with the shoulder. There's a lot of concerns for me about this team. Obviously, the wide receiver position has not been as dynamic as they had once hoped it would be. OBJ being out of the picture. You have Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones. For me, it's a little less to be desired at that wide receiver room. I think there are some good players there, but they are not as dynamic as we had once hoped they would be. The tight end position needs to increase their production as well with an Njoku and Austin Hooper. But for me, Baltimore is going to have to run the ball effectively. It's going to be tough against Myles Garrett. He's going to be living in the backfield all day long. But all in all, I still see the Ravens winning this one.
Yeah, the Ravens just the more talented team. Now I have a question here for you, a little off script, Austin, talking about talented divisions. Of course, the AFC North here. Browns are last in that division at 6-6. We talked about the Raiders being last in the AFC West at 6-6. And then you also have the very talented NFC West, where the Seahawks, of course, this year down a little bit. The Niners maybe not quite what we've expected them to be. However, those are probably the three top divisions in football. Let me know if I'm missing one. What division do you think is the best overall in football right now?
I think it has to be the NFC West. I think they're just so strong and competitive. I mean, having the Cardinals and the Rams at the top, two NFC heavyweights. And then you look at the San Francisco team, a very, very good all-around team. They're just kind of sputtering right now. And then the Seahawks, this is not what we thought they were going to be. I think that AFC North presents a really, really interesting opposition to them, but I'm actually going to opt for that NFC West.
Right, especially with Russell Wilson. Had he been healthy this year, you're not looking at a 4-8 product for sure. There's no way that they would be 4-8 had he been able to start all the games so far this year. NFC West would have been my pick as well. However, I think it kind of goes to show how strong some divisions are right now in football and kind of how competitive the NFL is. I know out in the AFC, I believe there's if the Chiefs win tonight in Sunday Night Football, there's only going to be a 2.5 game spread from the 1 seed and the 11 seed, which is absolutely crazy for this part of the season to be this late and that much competitiveness in one conference. That's absolutely awesome to see. Moving forward, now we have the Jaguars at Titans, maybe a little bit less competitive here in this one. Jaguars coming at 2-10, Titans at 8-4. Austin, I thought about the Jaguars again in this one just a little bit. I think that they're a team, they got beat down on by the Los Angeles Rams today. There's no doubt about that. However, I think that they've got some nice young pieces. They're trying to figure it out. They're coming along in their progression under Urban Meyer. However, I still opted for the Titans in this one, even though they're absent some of their key skill players. Why are the Titans going to win this one in your estimation?
Oh, it's interesting you say you've seen some progression, because no, they have not. No, they have not progressed in the slightest. I mean, Trevor Lawrence had 50 yards by halftime, and that's been true for the last, I don't know, 4 games basically. It's been a rough go of things. The Tennessee Titans will walk on Jacksonville. They don't even need Derrick Henry, and they'll still probably have a 100-yard rusher in this one. It doesn't really matter. This team is just bad, top to bottom. I have nothing great to say about this team at the moment, nor will I the rest of the season. Let's move on.
Quickly, Austin, I do have one question about the Jaguars roster construction. Of course, we made a video earlier on in the season about them trading Joe Schobert to Pittsburgh. I don't think that's aged very well. Honestly, probably a move that's going to look really, really bad just based off the production we've seen from Damian Wilson at the linebacker spot. Grade that trade on a scale of 1 to 10 for Jacksonville.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2 because they may have potentially cut him. I think that's the only redeeming factor. That's the only way. That's the only way that it was okay to get a 2 on the scale, is because maybe they would have cut him. So yeah, that's what we're looking at there.
Had they cut him, that would have been a true 1 out of 10 grade there from our draft wizard, our pick'em wizard, and just overall NFL wizard, Austin. Of course, a 2 out of 10, probably not a worthwhile trade still for Jacksonville, especially when you look at some of the issues this defense has had this season. Chargers at Giants. Giants are 4-8. Chargers come in at 7-5, and I think this is really tale of two teams right now. Giants are kind of, I think, starting to look a little bit more toward the draft, especially management there. We don't know if Dave Gettleman's going to be back next season. My guess is an early no at this point, but we will see. Of course, he put him in a position here to have 2 first-round picks with some of the trades he's made. Chargers, though, on the other hand, they're a team that's taken steps forward. They beat the Bengals today in a big, convincing fashion. Chargers look the part to be an AFC wildcard team at least. Austin, why are the Chargers going to walk all over New York in this one?
I think it's going to be a tough game. You know, like I mentioned in the open, the wide receivers are going to be a tough play. Austin Eckler should have a big game as well. The New York Giants, they are at home. That's the redeeming factor in this one. You really have to hope that the weather conditions are a factor in this one. I'm not sure what the forecast looks like, but that would be their pathway of keeping it pretty competitive. However, I just like the Chargers' weapons on offense, and it's going to be a long day for whoever's the quarterback of the Giants, whether it's Daniel Jones, whether it's Mike Glennon.
Keynote to watch here, if you are trying to bet on the Chargers and you think this could be a close game, Mike Williams and Justin Herbert have really great late game chemistry. There's been a ton of times this year that on game-winning drives, Justin Herbert's looked his way and Mike Williams has delivered in his breakout season this year. Of course, heading to free agency next year, we'll see what he does. But if this game does come down to the wire, expect Mike Williams to make a big play or two in that final drive. Lions at Broncos here. Another interesting matchup here where the Broncos at 6-5 before the Sunday night matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Lions 1-10-1. Get the monkey off their back, beat the Minnesota Vikings at home at Ford Field. What a thrilling game there. Of course, the Lions take advantage, get a curl route touchdown to end that game and win in style. Definitely an interesting matchup here, Austin. You went with the Broncos. I think that's probably the no-brainer pick for most people. However, when you're 8 games back in pick'em, you got to make some moves. You got to make some stuff happen. I'm picking the Detroit Lions. Let's get on a little win streak here, Detroit. Let's go ahead. We're going to roll through Denver on the road. We're going to go into Mile High Stadium, which is a hard thing to do, and we're going to win there. I'm all in on the Lions this week. Healthy Swift or not, I'm riding with the Lions. I need to make some things happen. Austin, why is Denver going to ultimately win this game?
Yeah, very bold pick by you. I think Denver's defense is going to be a little bit too much for the Lions to handle. At every level, they have a nice player. Patrick Surtain should have a big game as well. They're definitely going to get after Jared Goff. They're going to generate some pressure, throw some exotic looks at him, and I think that's why they're going to win. They're also at Mile High, which, that's a big factor for me as well. Tough environment to play in, obviously with the conditions as well. I do like the Broncos in this one. I think they're going to run the ball very effectively against this front seven.
My biggest hope is that the Lions don't get gassed because they haven't had to use a lot of that stamina offensively all year long. They've been able to stay fresh because they're not moving the ball too much. We'll see if they can move the ball against Denver here. Of course, key thing for me actually in this game is, can Denver actually get off the edge? The Lions have given up a ton of sacks this year, and the Broncos, have depleted their edge rushers a little bit with some injuries and then also trading Von Miller away. The Lions need to have a big game to win this one, and I think it's possible. I'm riding with Detroit. 49ers at Bengals now. 49ers coming at 6-6, of course, did not get the job done against Seattle today. And then the Bengals at 7-5, Austin, of course, dropped their game to the Chargers. However, I think the Bengals are just the better team here. I opted for Cincinnati. And the key thing to watch for me is how does San Francisco, with their cornerback situation, deal with the elite weapons that the Cincinnati Bengals have? Now, key thing to watch as well, Joe Burrow, dislocated pinky. How's he going to be able to hold the football? Is he going to be able to deliver down the field the same way he's been able to all year long? Those are big question marks. Austin, how do you feel about those questions?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's hard to know what the overall health of him right now. Looking at the Bengals, I think the tough thing about trying to play against the Bengals, they're multifaceted with their offense. They run the ball effectively, really, really good throwing the ball as well because they got a ton of playmakers out there. You have T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase. There's a lot of players that can hurt you on that offense. And defensively, they keep improving year by year, which is some of the reason why we're seeing that defensive uptick in terms of overall sack production and just how they've played as team defense. So this one, they're at home. That's really where it's going to help them out. Had it been on the road, I probably would have taken the 49ers, but the home factor is the tipping point for me.
Of course, for the 49ers here, if they want to get the job done, they're going to need their defensive line to really step up against that Bengals offensive front. Of course, we've had a lot of talk on the channel about what the Bengals offensive line looks like. Not the strongest in the league, but they've been better this year. If they hold their own, I think the Bengals cruise in this one. Cowboys at Washington now here, another interdivision matchup where the Cowboys come in at 8-4 and Washington sneakily up to 6-6 after that Chase Young injury. They've been rolling 4-game win streak. And of course, Taylor Heineke, he's very interested in continuing winning. He gets a $125,000 bonus every single game they win when he plays 60+% of the snaps. So it's huge for him that they keep winning this 4-game win streak. It's been very, very nice to his pocketbook as well. However, we both have the Cowboys upsetting that win streak there for Washington. Austin, how key is Trayvon Diggs and Dallas's defense in this one?
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs is big every single week. He's a factor in terms of taking away the ball. I think that's going to continue. I think he might get a pick in this game, which is not a Super Bowl prediction considering he does it almost consistently every week with how he's played so far this year. Keys to the game, really running the football, going out of play action with that. Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott have been effective this year, leading and opening up that play action. Dallas has a lot of weapons on that offense. It's going to be tough for Washington's defense to contain them.
Washington's a strong team, strong defense. They got a feisty offense as well. Taylor Heineke, I think a solid NFL quarterback, makes a lot of plays happen. He's a total gamer, but it's just going to be a lot of talent to try and overcome this week for Washington, even at home. It's just tough. It's a tough game on the schedule, especially interdivision. Cowboys are going to walk in, take this seriously, and view this as a close-up match where they can try and put the dagger in that division and really walk away with that division in this one. They look to move to 9-4, and I expect them to get there. Bills at Bucs now. Buccaneers coming at 9-3. The Bills 7-4 before the Monday night matchup. This has to be one of the games of the week for sure. Two teams that possibly could be in the Super Bowl. Of course, the Buccaneers won it last year, and the Bills, they've been knocking on that door now the last couple of years. They're getting closer. Josh Allen, he's going to be key in this one. We both opted for Tampa Bay at home. Leonard Fournette's been playing great. Rob Gronkowski, 2 touchdowns again today too. How do the Bills look to slow down Tampa in this matchup?
Yeah, I think for the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be all about obviously stopping the deep pass. You know, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin could be huge factors in this. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the key is here, make them, not multifaceted, make them just throw the football because they've been rotating running backs in and out. Matt Breida's seen some carries, Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. Tampa's tough enough to run against as it is. And really for them, if you can force the Buffalo Bills to throw the football, way too many times, it's going to lead to some eventual mistakes. And definitely you don't even have to really rush that many just when you have great coverage on that back end.
Right, the Buccaneers are going to have to get after Josh Allen a little bit. He's really good off schedule, so it's going to be key that the back end holds up as well. When you have to deal with guys like Stephon Diggs week in, week out, that's going to be a tough matchup, tough assignment. Austin, over under here, Stephon Diggs, 100 yards, 1 touchdown.
I'm actually going to hit the over on that. I think he's going to have over 100 yards. I think he's going to have that 1 touchdown, maybe 2, but I'm more confident in the 1. But definitely think he is going to eclipse 100 yards. They're going to be forcing him the ball in this one.
He's going to have to be the key focal point for that Bills offense. And then we're going to have to see Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders make some timely plays as well. For Buffalo, they're a team that can rise to the challenge if they have to. However, they're on a slightly shorter week, having that Monday night matchup. with some travel involved. That's a tough task for anyone, especially when you're going into Tampa Bay. Then we move into our Sunday night matchup here. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the open. Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Bears coming at 4-8, Packers at 9-3. Same division, two different teams. Packers, team with Super Bowl aspirations. Bears, a team maybe focused on trying to develop that young quarterback a little bit and bring him along. Of course, they don't have their first round pick either this year. So they're trying to go out, win games. Andy Dalton today threw 4 interceptions. So you're looking at a Bears team that just isn't in a role right now. Why do the Packers win this one?
I think the Green Bay Packers are definitely going to pick apart the secondary. Chicago is going to have issues running the ball for sure. Therefore, they're going to have to throw it a little more than they're comfortable with. And it's just not going to be a great game for the Chicago Bears. They have to go into Lambeau on Sunday Night Football. This is kind of a recipe for disaster. Maybe they can shock me, but I think Green Bay is going to have a big win here.
On the topic of the Green Bay Packers, how seriously do you take them as a true Super Bowl contender? Of course, we've seen this team be very, very talented over the last decade, 2 decades even. And the Packers, they consistently get right there, but only 1 Super Bowl win so far for Aaron Rodgers. Is this year any different for Green Bay?
I think it might be. I think with the openness of the NFC, I don't feel like we think there's a true favorite in that NFC. I think Tampa Bay's showing a little bit of flaws. I think that you have the Arizona Cardinals showing a little bit of flaws as well. But I think it's pretty open for the Green Bay Packers. They are true contenders this year. I think it's very possible that they do win the Super Bowl.
Right, of course, came so close last year to getting into that Super Bowl matchup. Just didn't get the job done in that NFC Conference Championship game. This year, maybe a different story, especially with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams potentially in their final seasons as members of the Green Bay Packers. Which brings us into our Monday night matchup. And again, perhaps the game of the week here. We got some really, really good games. We're really spoiled. Back into this week, we've got the Los Angeles Rams at 8-4 going into Arizona to take on the 10-2 Cardinals in that Monday night matchup. Austin, we have a split decision here. I went with the Rams. You went with the Cardinals. You had talked a little bit about some of those flaws. Why are the Cardinals going to go in and beat Los Angeles here?
Yeah, I think the Arizona Cardinals present a really, really tough challenge for the Rams. Kyler Murray is so tough to contain week in, week out. With him being healthy, having DeAndre Hopkins back, it's a tough matchup. And obviously the Rams were able to kind of get back to doing what they need to do. They won against Jacksonville very, very easily. Their offense was super explosive once again. This is going to be the best game of the week for sure, in my opinion. And we said that the last time. I think the Cardinals are going to they're going to narrowly edge them out. You got to see more of a running game as well to factor in here.
Yeah, James Conner is going to have to be huge in this one. Of course, he's kind of taken over some of those responsibilities in the short term. And then looking at the Rams here, for me, key thing for me to watch, Jalen Ramsey. He's got to go in and not only play well, but he's got to beat that DeAndre Hopkins in that one-on-one matchup. I think it's very possible that he does. He's the top cornerback in the NFL, arguably, and he's going to have to play that way on Monday night. This is a must-see matchup. The Rams, you had talked about Kyler Murray's mobility, his ability to get out of the pocket, make plays happen. Aaron Donald, Von Miller, those two guys are getting paid a ton of money, and they're going to have to make key plays to help the Rams defense slow down Kyler Murray. I think this is going to come down to, can the Rams defense slow down the Cardinals offense just a little bit so that the Rams offense can pull this one out? I think these are two of the best teams in the NFL, for sure two of the best teams in the NFC, and this is going to be a great matchup. We're really spoiled to see this one. I'm very excited for this to be the Monday night matchup in week 14. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Also subscribe if you are new to Utility Sports. We're going to be doing more pick'em like this in the future. Also check out some of our NFL mock drafts. Check out some of our college pick'em and predictions, other stuff around college football. And we also do a lot of stuff about the NBA here, some MLB content coverage as well. So a lot of stuff for you to be watching on Utility Sports. Again, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the very next Utility Sports video.